We're here at the Emirates Stadium in the aftermath of what was a brilliant victory for Arsenal in the Premier League this afternoon. 2-0 against their rivals for the Champions League places, Manchester United. I'm here with Gary Breen, and Gary, it really was a crucial victory for Arsenal. If they had lost this one today, it would have been, not just a dent to their confidence, but obviously a dent to their Champions League qualification hopes.
Yeah, they've really bullied themselves back into it now, and I think the frustration would have been last week that they should have won that North London derby. That late penalty miss denied them a really impressive performance, the points that they desperately needed to close the gap on Tottenham. So coming into this game, I think both United and Arsenal would have been aware that Spurs had dropped points yesterday, that Chelsea had dropped points earlier, so there's a real opportunity now to get into that top four and put themselves in a really good position for the remainder of this season, and they did that. They made a real statement of intent, bearing in mind the confidence that United turned up with under Solskjaer, the incredible results that they had, bearing in mind they'd gone to Arsenal before in the Cup and won, one at Chelsea, one in Paris, one at Spurs. But Arsenal were great value for it. They thoroughly deserved that victory.
Now, we've had to come in a bit off the pitch because conditions are horrendous here. It didn't make it easy for United in the closing stages, but throughout the game, their strikers, their attackers, they never really troubled the Arsenal defence. Well, I know they had that shot off the bar, but they didn't really have the Arsenal back five under any real pressure. And we all know that's been Arsenal's weak point this season. So why did a team with the talent of the likes of Lukaku, Rashford, Martial came off the bench, why couldn't they break that Arsenal defence down?
Well, I think ultimately United weren't at their best, but that's to take nothing away from Arsenal, the work that Emery has done. In the North London derby, Tottenham are probably one of the best teams in terms of playing out from the back, playing through the thirds and creating space in the 10 area. They could not do it against Arsenal to the extent that they had to go route one football. That's something you never associate with Tottenham. And that just shows you the work that's been done day in, day out now under Emery, which is impressive, because I don't think that's the most gifted back five or back four that Arsenal have ever had by certain. But you can see the work that they're doing. You can see the work that the likes of Monreal are doing, the discipline he's put into his game, Xhaka in holding midfield, Ramsey as well, and even Ozil's putting in the defensive shift. It's not his strength, but he's doing it. And I think every one of those Arsenal players now, there's an accountability now that reputations won't get you a game. You have to put in a shift. And if you don't do that week in, week out, you don't play. And that is what is so impressive about Emery, is that it's a slow burner. It's a big job, I think bigger than a lot of people realise in terms of what he inherited from Wenger. But slowly but surely, he's doing a very good job of it.
Now, some of the Arsenal defenders are, I suppose, maybe in the autumn of their careers. Sokratis, 30 years of age. We don't know how long he'll be around here for. Koscielny's 33. Let's look at the future. And Maitland-Niles. It did seem that, the amount of times we commented during the game, he was in there getting tackles, getting blocks. A young player, but is he one for the future for Arsenal?
Well, listen, his performance today suggests he's one for the present, and that's something that's been so impressive, is that initially when a young player is there, a new manager comes in, you fear for it, because Wenger gave him the opportunity in the Europa League over the last couple of seasons, and he took that opportunity, but he can play midfield. Now he's been given the opportunity at right wing back, which is a difficult position to learn, because obviously the emphasis on your game is to get forward, to support your midfield, your attacking players. But what he done so well is that he recognised danger, he covered on the right-hand side of Sokratis. We had identified that Sokratis is a big, robust centre-half, really wants to play in the middle, doesn't want to be dragged out into those wide areas where he can be exposed for pace. But because Maitland-Niles was always on his shoulder, always covering him, there was no areas that United could exploit. Bearing in mind you've got the likes of Lukaku, Rashford, who's so good in those areas. Martial comes on late in the game, he couldn't get a look in as well, so it does bode well. I like Sokratis. I think he's an old-fashioned type centre-half. He wears his heart on his sleeves. The supporters are buying into him, they're really enjoying it, and certainly his experience alongside Maitland-Niles will be a massive plus for any young player.
Yeah, I love Sokratis' fist pump over here.
Yeah, he does it all the time. He loves it. He's always turning around to the crowd like Joe, and he's typical his Greek nature. He's just a real passionate player.
Are you sure he's not an awfully hurler?
Oh, no, listen, the only thing about these Arsenal players is they're the most self-rewarding guys at times. They love high-fiving each other all the time throughout the game, but you have to give them credit today. They deserved all the plaudits they'll get.
Whatever works. Listen, we'll come to United now in a moment, but looking ahead for Arsenal, Thursday night they've got the Europa League tie to finish off against Rennes. They're 3-1 down. On the back of that performance today, can they get going again in another 4 days' time and turn that tie around and progress to the quarter-finals?
Oh, I think so. I think certainly at home, we highlighted it's a 9-strength Premier League win, so they're going to be strong. I think Emery will go after the competition. I think he does see it at one stage as Arsenal's best route back into the Champions League if they can win it. He has a history of winning it, 3 times winning with Seville. But I think Chelsea will probably identify it now. The only concern I would have is that it's a very difficult thing to juggle both competitions. It's so difficult. Even when he won it those 3 times with Seville, he never finished in the top 4 of La Liga. So it's not an easy thing to do. So I think at one stage in the next couple of weeks, listen, that might be taken out of his hands with a defeat to Rennes in terms of going out, but he has to identify, and he has to make a decision in terms of which competition he prioritises, because now that they've got into that top 4, I'd back them with their momentum and certainly their home form to stay there.
So, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's been an absolutely tremendous run.
Yeah.
He deserves a huge amount of credit, and he's not going to lose any of that on the back of this performance today. There was always going to be a defeat coming down the track, and look, it's against a big club like Arsenal, but he had 17 games, he had 14 wins, 2 draws and a defeat coming into this one today. The defeat was in the Champions League, so they were impeccable in the Premier League. What will he be asking? What will, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looks in the mirror tonight, what questions will he be asking himself? Will he be doubting himself after today?
I don't think he'll doubt himself. I think he's got a lot of confidence in his ability, and he'll have his staff and they'll know what's going wrong. I think what he may well doubt is how many of those Manchester United players that have performed so well in terms of the atmosphere he's created, are they good enough to consistently win games, which you have to do if you're going to get Manchester United back to the top of where they think they belong. Now, I think the emotion in terms of that incredible result in Paris, maybe it took a lot out of them, because they certainly didn't look at their best today, but they have quality players. It was never going to be a quick fix as such. The run has been amazing, but there have been games where they have rode their luck. There's no doubt in that. They have looked vulnerable at times, and you can still argue that they're probably short of the quality of Manchester United teams that I certainly played against, and where they need to get back to that elite level.
I was a bit disappointed in Paul Pogba. Now, I'm not one of these people, there are a lot of them out there who will knock Paul Pogba at any chance. I like him, I think he's a really good player, but considering he missed the tie against Paris Saint-Germain during the week because he was suspended, surely he should have a bit more of an influence on this game today.
Well, listen, I think for a player of his quality and in terms of how he's responded to the new manager, you are always expecting him to perform week in, week out. I think he got frustrated at times because Arsenal were so good in that midfield area. The shape of United's team at times wasn't right. At times it looked like a 4-4-2, then it quickly went to a 4-2-4, which then gave control of that midfield to Arsenal. We had identified that Ramsey, Xhaka and Ozil in the centre midfield area are going to be vulnerable defensively, but there was none of that. They literally played on the front foot and as a result dominated that area, and I think Pogba did get frustrated. Like a number of the rest of the Man United players, they didn't hit the heights that we've seen of them in recent months.
So they have a big cup tie against Wolves now next week. They've got 6 days to recover. But Wolves, off the back of their performance against Chelsea today, they got a 1-1 draw. They'll be their tails will be up, and I'd imagine they're going to go full pelt at this cup tie next week. And it's going to be a tricky one for United.
No, listen, it'll be a really exciting game, there's no doubt. I think Wolves, my ex-team, have been sensational in their return to the Premier League. Obviously, they're battling to be the best of the rest outside that top 6, trying to get that 7th position. But to be this deep in the FA Cup as well just shows you the work that Nuno's done there. It's been an incredible turnaround, and they've been good value for it. They've been impressive. They can play defensive football and hit you on the counter-attack. They can control the football. They can play a variety of different systems, which just shows you how good the coaching is there, how quickly that these players that you wouldn't normally associate with Premier League, the likes of Doherty, the likes of Connor Cody, have excelled. They really have proved that they are able to cope at this level, so it will be a fascinating game, no doubt.